So there I was, 2:47 a.m, sitting in the dark, staring at a cartoon elf in his underwear. Not a weird situation for me personally, but this time it was different. Because this little elf boy wasn't in danger, he wasn't being chased, and no one was telling him where to go. And that was a problem. Breath of the Wild is a game about freedom, and freedom is horrifying. Most open world games try very hard to convince you that the world is alive. Vendors yell about fish, NPCs shout, someone's always getting mugged or needs help finding 12 goat skulls. But in Breath of the Wild, everyone's already gone. You wake up 100 years too late to the apocalypse. You missed the war, you missed the fall, you missed everyone and everything. And now you're just here, wandering through the ruins of a civilization that clearly had technology, culture, infrastructure, and it's still got absolutely folded by a spooky red cloud floating around Zelda's castle. It's not a world you save, it's a world you inherit after the funeral. I remember my first tower. Rain pouring, stamina flashing red, controller slightly greasy from emotional distress. I finally reached the top expecting a cutscene, a voice, some old man to say good job chosen one, just like he did on the plateau. Instead, map downloaded. That's it. The game doesn't celebrate you, it just gives you information and says, alright, now what do you want to do? And that question is way scarier than someone telling you to go kill this dragon. Most Zelda games say, here's the dungeon, here's the item, and here's the next dungeon. It's comforting, it's structured, it's linear, like school but with swords. Breath of the Wild says, here's a continent, good luck. You can go fight Ganon immediately, you can ignore the main story for 200 hours and just cook mushrooms and shield surf, and learn all the glitches, commit war crimes against bokoblins. The game doesn't care. And that lack of pressure creates a weird feeling on a hero's journey. You're just a guy outside. I'm on a horse very early on. Didn't need it. Could have teleported everywhere. Could have shield surfed. Could have flown around. But no. I decided to keep it and name it something stupid. I got emotionally attached in about 6 minutes, then a guardian laser beamed it into non-existence. I just sat there, controller in hand, listening to the piano, not angry at all, just quiet. Because Breath of the Wild is one of the only games that makes you feel small instead of dramatic. No slow motion, no speech, just you standing in a field knowing you could have done better. Despite being massive,
it's massive.
Hyrule feels empty. Not unfinished, empty. Abandoned empty. Ruined villages, broken guardians, collapsed buildings with grass flowing through them. The world isn't waiting for you, it's moving on without you. That's why exploration feels different here. You're not discovering cool places, you're discovering what used to matter. Not to mention, the map is stupidly gigantic. Like, did anyone actually test walking across this? Levels of gigantic. I'd say it easily rivals Skyrim, The Witcher, and other games that also decided bigger automatically means better. It does feel like a real world, sure, forests, deserts, mountains, the whole geography textbook. But sometimes it feels like the devs spun a globe, picked out 5 points and said, yep, that in each corner. It's massive. You can zoom out for miles, which is great until you realise you're the only one that can walk all of these miles. From the start, you wake up roughly in the middle of the map, give or take. And unless you obediently follow the quest line, the game just shrugs and says, off you go then. You can head in any direction, do whatever catches your eyes, and immediately get distracted by something 30 seconds later. There are millions of quests, hidden treasures, secrets, minigames, and other little activities clearly designed to stop you from ever making meaningful progress. Breath of the Wild basically sets the precedent for modern open world games, making everything climbable, scattering content everywhere, and letting the player just figure their own pacing, or lack of it. It rivals GTA, The Witcher, not just in map size, but in how effectively it overwhelms you with places to go and things you'll probably never finish. Never before have I felt so lost in a game. Never have I felt so small, so underprepared, and so likely to be one-shot by a random robot spider. The game delivers a genuine sense of adventure, the kind where you set out heroically and end up freezing to death halfway in a hill. And somehow, despite all of that, it's still the best free roaming game I've ever played. Which is annoying, because I'm not even that big of a Zelda fan. It's an absolute masterpiece, and I resent how much I like it. Let's talk about the music. Actually, let's talk about the lack of music. Most of the time you just hear wind, footsteps, a few piano notes like someone learning the instrument badly. It's not hype music, it's thinking music. It gives you space. Sometimes too much space. Eventually your brain starts filling in thoughts like, where did everyone go? Why am I the only one fixing this? And why did that lizard just one-shot me? And let's talk more specifically about the actual soundtrack. Or, more accurately, let's talk about the bold creative decision to barely have one, right? Most open games want you hyped, trumpets, drums, some guy screaming at you in Latin. Normal stuff. Breath of the Wild said, what if instead we just let the wind do most of the work? At first, I really hated it. I'd be walking through a massive field expecting some heroic orchestra, and instead I got plink plonk, plink plonk, one sad piano note. Like the composer accidentally leaned on the keyboard and just said, yeah, leave it in. Then something strange happens. You start listening, not to the music, but to everything else. Your footsteps in the grass, the breeze through the trees, the distant wildlife, the sound of your last two brain cells trying to figure out how not to fall off a cliff. The soundtrack doesn't try and control your emotions, it just kind of sits there. Oh, you're exploring? Oh, shut up then. And that silence, that's the genius part. Because when music does show up, properly show up, it hits like emotional property damage. When you hear a stable theme after wandering alone for an hour and suddenly you're like, why is this piano making me feel safe?
Yeah!
Guardian music starts and your fight or flight response activates in real life. Heart rate doubles. Your controller's slipping out your hands from the sweat. You're not playing a game anymore. You're filling in a stress claim. And Hyrule's castle theme? That's not background music. That's the sound of the game reminding you, hey, we have an apocalypse. You remember it? You have to deal with it. You have to deal with it. It's dramatic, it's tragic, it's heroic, all while you're eating apples mid-fight and panicking. The soundtrack in Breath of the Wild doesn't try to be catchy, it tries to be honest. It sounds like loneliness, it sounds like ruins, it sounds like a world that kept existing while you're asleep for 100 years, you lazy little elf. And I think that's why it works. Other games' soundtracks want to be added to your Spotify playlist. This one wants you to feel small, slightly uncomfortable, and emotionally vulnerable. Staring at the sunset you climb 20 minutes to reach. It's subtle, it's restrained, and it's way smarter than it has any right to be. And again, I hate that I love it, because now every time I walk somewhere quiet in real life, my brain goes, need ambient piano here. It's a 10 out of 10 soundtrack. Late game, I climbed a random mountain. No quest, no marker, just vibes. At the top, there was nothing. No shrine, no loot, just a view. Sun setting over Hyrule, the wind blowing, ruins in the distance. And I realized something. The game isn't rewarding me with items, it's rewarding me with these moments. That's really when it hit me. This isn't a power fantasy, it's a solitude fantasy. It's a game about enjoying and learning to be on your own in a world that isn't ready for you. Link has no memories, no personality, and he hardly speaks. You're not stepping into a legend, you're stepping into the aftermath of one. Everyone you meet talks about you like you're some kind of historical figure, a legendary swordsman, the appointed knight, a hero chosen by the sword. And you're just standing there, like this, because you don't remember any of it. You weren't there for the great battle. You don't remember Zelda's voice, and you don't remember failing. You're basically the world's most important amnesiac delivery boy, and that changes everything. Most hero stories are about becoming strong enough to save the world. This one is realizing you used to be strong enough, and you still lost. You're not building a legend, you're living in the shadow of a failed one. Every ruined battlefield, every broken guardian, even destroyed town is a reminder that the hero of Hyrule already tried and it wasn't enough. So now you're walking through the wreckage of your own reputation. NPCs talk about the past version of you, like he was braver, more skilled, closer to Zelda, more complete, an absolute giga Chad compared to who you are now. Meanwhile, present day Link is getting one tapped by a rock because he misjudged a slope. It creates this weird emotional gap. The world believes in a version of you that you can't access. You have to earn back an identity you don't even remember choosing. That's such a strange, quietly sad idea for a Nintendo game. You're not reclaiming power, you're reclaiming yourself. Every memory you recover isn't just lore, it's a piece of a person you used to be, a relationship, a failure, a responsibility. You're not just trying to save Zelda, you're trying to understand why she mattered to you in the first place. It turns the whole journey inward. Climbing a mountain isn't just exploration, it's reflection time with stamina management. Wandering alone through ruins isn't just travel, it's you existing in the space between who you were and who you might be again. The game never forces an emotional speech. It never gives Link a big dramatic monologue, because silence is the point. You project onto him, you decide what kind of hero he becomes this time. Brave, careful, chaotic, a man who solves every problem by setting grass on fire. The blankness isn't laziness, it's space. Space for you to slowly grow into a role the world already assigned for you. Which is why the story hits different. It's less, go save the princess, and it's more, figure out who you are and then decide if the world is still worth saving. Which is wildly existential for a game where you can die instantly because a metal box fell on your head. Most open world games are basically like theme parks. Bright lights, constant noise, something exploding every 30 seconds, NPCs waving their arms like an inflatable tube man trying to sell you side quests you absolutely did not ask for. You don't explore these worlds, you manage through them. There's always a marker, an activity, always a reward dangled in front of you, like you're a medieval peasant being bribed with XP instead of bread. You're never bored, but you're also never alone long enough to think. Breath of the Wild is not a theme park, it's a hiking trip. Sometimes nothing happens, and I mean nothing. You'll walk across a field for 3 full minutes, and the most exciting thing that occurs is a lizard running slightly faster than you. And that feels, at first, that feels wrong. Like the game forgot to put content there, like someone at Nintendo just went, grass is fine. And then you keep walking, and suddenly you crest a hill and there's a dragon in the sky, or a ruined temple half swallowed by the earth, or a shrine glowing faintly in the distance like the world is winking at you. The game doesn't shove these moments in your face, you stumble into them, which makes them feel earned instead of scheduled. Other games want you to see everything. Breath of the Wild is okay with you missing it. And that's such a weirdly confident design choice. It's saying, yeah, something's cool over the mountain, but if you don't go there, that's your problem. Sometimes you'll discover something amazing. Sometimes you just find a tree, a regular tree that took you 5 minutes of climbing to reach. And sometimes you fall off a cliff because it started raining and now you're sliding like a medieval idiot watching your stamina drain while gravity prepares to delete you from existence. 40 minutes of progress gone because you trusted a wet rock. It's not cinematic, it's not epic, it's hiking. And weirdly, that's why the world feels more real than games that hit you with 900 side quests called Collect 12 Toenails for Goblin Steve. These games are scared you'll get bored. Breath of the Wild isn't. It gives you space, silence, and distance. It trusts the world itself, the shape of the land, and whether the ruins in the distance is interesting enough without fireworks going off every 12 seconds. And because of that, when something does happen, it's like a story you found, not content you consumed. Eventually, I went to the castle. No big preparation, no dramatic training arc, no montage of me forging legendary weapons while inspirational music plays. I looked at the map, saw the big evil swirl, and thought, yep, guess I'll end the apocalypse today. And that's the weird part, because in most games, the final boss is the moment. It's the emotional peak, the payoff to everything you've been building towards. But in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, defeating Ganon doesn't feel like the climax. It feels like admin, like ticking off a last thing on a to-do list you forgot you still had. The journey's happened. The real story wasn't the castle, it was everywhere else. It was the first time you saw a dragon in the sky and stood there like an idiot with your mouth open. It was getting lost in a thunderstorm, barely surviving because you forgot metal conducts electricity. It was climbing a mountain for no reason other than it looks high. It was the wandering, it was the getting distracted, the quiet moments where nothing happened except wind and your own thoughts. And yeah, the quiet horse funeral. That hit harder than anything Ganon ever did. By the time you walk into Hyrule Castle, you're not desperate, you're not underpowered, and you're not racing against time. You're just done exploring. You've seen enough of the world to understand what's at stake. The castle isn't the start of the end. It's the last page in a book you've already emotionally finished. Even when you approach, it feels casual. You don't charge the front gates like a heroic knight. You climb the walls like a little gremlin boy. You sneak through broken windows. You accidentally set something on fire and pretend like that was part of the plan. And when you finally face Ganon, it doesn't feel like revenge. It doesn't feel like destiny. It feels like closure. Like, you're not defeating evil, but you're putting an old wound to rest. Because Breath of the Wild was never really about the final battle. It was about the space between the battles. The quiet rebuilding of a person, the slow rediscovery of a world that's already moved on without you. Beating the final boss just feels like closing a book you already finished reading, and then sitting there for a second, controller in hand, not ready to leave yet. Breath of the Wild isn't about being powerful. It asks, what if saving the world wasn't urgent? What if no one was watching? What if being a hero was just a personal choice? And that's why it sticks with people. Because when the quest markers disappear and the music fades and you're standing on a cliff but with nothing but wind in your ear, you're not playing a game anymore. You're just a guy in a world deciding where to walk next. Anyway, yeah, 10 out of 10 game. Climbed a tree for 6 hours. Would emotionally devastate myself again. Sure, yep. Thanks for watching, guys. I found a horse. I found a horse. I found a horse.